In this video, I'm going to show you the strategy to actually win parlays in the NFL. Make sure you guys stay to the end because I'm going to show you the exact website that you need to implement this strategy that I'm going to teach you. Now, this is the only parlay strategy in the NFL that actually works, and I'm going to teach you guys. But first, let's go through reasons why most people lose parlays. Now, I'm usually one that's always against parlays, no whatsoever. I'm always against them because people do them the wrong way, and I'm going to show you how they do that, all right? So let's say, for example, somebody does a 3-team. Most likely what they do is they'll pick 3 teams and the odds look like this. So most of the time they're betting on the spread, or sometimes they're doing player props that are just shown at the sportsbook. So 3 teams at these odds right here, you have to be able to understand what the correlation is to probability of you actually being able to hit those. Now the implied probability of this right here for you to be able to pretty much understand what you need to break even to be able to hit this is 14%. So right off the bat, with those odds, put them together, that's the chance that you got. You got a 14% chance of winning this type of bet right here. But what most people don't realize is the bet that they're making here, this is the implied probability. But what the true probability behind these plays actually are and what it actually dictates. So these plays right here, most of the time, the true probability doesn't line up with what the odds are. And they're actually negative what they are. So you're playing this right here. Minus 110, 3 ways. But actually the odds, true probability wise, on most of those plays that you end up doing look like this. It's actually, the probability is way less. So now your actual probability of winning this right here becomes 9%. Okay? So your implied probability here, 14%. But your true probability is 9%, giving you a negative 5% edge. And this is the recipe for why people lose their parlays all the time. Because they're playing a negative percentage through the long term, but they just keep hammering parlays and they keep playing a negative edge because they don't realize that the plays that they're putting in have a true probability that are way lower than what is actually expected of that play. And the thing is that it just gets worse and worse the more legs that you add to the parlay. So if you add a 4th, a 5th, the numbers just get worse and your edge just gets worse. And the probability of you actually winning those become drastically low. Now, I've seen a lot of times, such in the NFL, where people will put anytime touchdowns together and they'll smash like 5 people to get a touchdown. They'll put them together. The actual probability of them hitting that, the true probability, is like 1%. And the odds dictate it's like a 10% chance. So again, they're betting a negative edge long term. This is why you keep betting parlays and you keep losing. Now, this is the reason why you keep losing. So how do you actually win? How do you actually make this work for yourself to where you could actually pull a profit and do this long term? That's what I'm just about to show you. But before we get to that, if you guys want to fast forward through all this and you want to know exactly what I bet on in the NFL week in and week out, make sure you guys click the link in the description. Now let's talk about how to win these parlays. And again, parlays are not the way to do it long term and just strictly stick to that, okay? These are something that you could do in addition, but you have to be able to do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, you're gonna lose money, okay? Because nobody has ever been successful long term as a sports bettor just strictly betting parlays. Now you could add some of this into your tool belt, but this doesn't mean that you could just 100% rely on it. But how do we win? All right, that's what I'm going to explain to you right now. Now we win by flipping exactly what I just taught you. How we lose, we flip that into our favor. So the strategy that you could use for the NFL, this is exactly pretty much what you need to do, okay? Let's say a quarterback, we got the pass prop, okay? Passing yards. We're going to link him up with a receiver for his receiving yards. All right? That's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to take the alternate number here, making sure that they have great matchups going against certain teams, obviously. We're not just doing this every single game on the same players. They got to have a good matchup. All right? But let's say, who can we correlate here? I like to use Burrow, but unfortunately, can't really use him this season. All right? But who can we correlate here? Let's use J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson. Let's say his pass prop for J.J. McCarthy is plus 175. Okay, that's his alt number. Let's say that number is minus 600. All right? Let's say Justin Jefferson's receiving. Let's say it's plus 50 yards, and that's at minus 600 as well. Okay? These are the implied probabilities here. Okay? 2-teamer, for example. If we're going to do a 2-team here, you mash both of those together, you're going to go ahead and get an odd of minus 277 for that 2-teamer. All right? Now, the implied probability for this right here is going to be 73%. Okay, that's the implied probability. But if we go and look at the true probability of this actually occurring because of the stats and the alternate numbers that we were able to get, we should find that this number right here is actually off. And both of those should actually be minus 900. But we found them at minus 600, right? So what is our implied probability true aspect of this once you find those type of plays? Now, our true probability here is actually 81%, giving us a plus 8% edge. What does that mean? That means now we do this long term, guess what? Now we're in the positive, being able to bet a parlay and doing it the actual correct way. Now there's matchups like this on any given Sunday across the board for the NFL. You just have to be able to link both of them up, because the reason why obviously you're linking quarterback with the receiver, because if you're taking the passing yards for a quarterback, obviously if you link him up with his top receiver, he should be throwing to his top receiver if he eclipses his passing yards mark. And we're dropping that number so low to where the probability of it actually occurring, when you actually find the actual true probability for these numbers, is drastically different than what the implied probability is, because that's where the sportsbook made a mistake. People believe that sportsbooks don't make mistakes, but they do. They make mistakes every single day on certain lines. Certain lines they are lenient with, and you can attack those. That's where you create this type of play. Okay? You don't just mash together 5 anytime touchdowns and hope for the best. You get this down with science and bring down to a probability that's going to give you a plus edge, and that's how you actually can win long term with these types of parlays. Now, the best website that you could actually use to be able to find the best matchups for the quarterback going against receiver, or quarterback correlating with his receiver going against certain defenses, is called Fantasy Pros. All right, so what this does is it lists actually how the defenses do against that certain position with fantasy points. And you take that fantasy points and you correlate that into passing yards and receiving. You want to look for both categories, okay? The QB to be going against the worst bottom 5 defenses for passing, and the wide receiver, worst bottom 5 versus receivers. Okay, correlate those two together, and you will find a quarterback with the receiver on his team that have a great matchup and can actually make what the parlay that I just showed you exactly how to put together have the best opportunity at winning. If you don't, and you're just mashing stuff together, you're going to lose long term, because that's just the way that it goes. So make sure you guys understand that you are looking for the best matchup, because in big letters I'm going to write here, needs to make sense. Okay, it's a big thing. Make it make sense for your play to correlate and understand that it has an actual good shot at winning. Because if it doesn't make sense and they're going against the top defense, why would you play something like that? People make that mistake day in and day out every single week. So make sure it makes sense. If it makes sense and the probability lines up, you're going to give yourself the best shot at winning.